committee. So we're really excited to feature this networking opportunity for our Missouri Gateway chapter of the U.S. Green Building Council. Today, we have some members and non-members of the chapter, so thank you for joining us. Our chapter, like many other nonprofits throughout the country, rely on funding, and one of our biggest sources is through our memberships. So if you aren't already a member, please consider joining our chapter membership. And if you already are, don't forget to renew your membership. There is a little bit of a different pay system through, so we want to make sure to get everybody renewed. So the goal of our coffee breaks are to provide an opportunity for our community to engage in conversational hot topics over a cup of coffee. I hope everybody has their cup. And a short 30-minute break. So our theme for today's conversation is about the Brickline Greenway. So today I am excited to have with us our special guest, which is Mark Vogl. Mark is the project manager for planning at Great Rivers Greenway. With his professional background in urban planning and landscape architecture, his primary responsibilities at GRG are to lead a Greenway master planning and implement the district's regional plan. Prior to joining the district in 2013, Mark spent nearly 20 years with HOK's planning group and was a Peace Corps volunteer in Panama. So just to give some overviews, I'm sure most of you are probably very familiar with Zoom, but just to let you know, there is the option to click the grid view up in the right-hand corner to see all of the callers. The chat function is accessible at the bottom of the screen. So please also be respectful of others, allow others to join in the conversation, be mindful of not jumping over anyone speaking, but feel free to talk without really being called upon. And if you do have something that you want to add to the conversation, but you don't want to interrupt somebody else, just use one of the reactions below and I'll just note it and I'll make sure to get you back into the conversation. And then lastly, just try to mute yourself unless you're speaking to avoid any unnecessary background noise. So without further ado, Mark, take it away.
All right, thank you very much. Let me share my other screen here. And if someone can just give me a thumbs up when you can see that. Yeah, all right, great. So thanks again for inviting me to speak to you today on Brickline Greenway, a very exciting project for us. And it's nice to see some very familiar faces out there. Glad that you were all able to take a little bit of your Friday morning to view this. I'm going to share the presentation very, very quickly. So if you can hold comments, questions to the end, that way I can make sure we get through everything in a timely fashion. So just start out with a very quick overview of Great Rivers Greenway. As you probably are aware, we are the region's public Parks and Recreation District. We were created about 20 years ago. In fact, we're just now celebrating our 20th anniversary. And we are connecting greenways throughout the city of St. Louis County and St. Charles County. And of course, our mission is to make St. Louis a better place to live. I mean, that's fundamentally what we're all about. And through a lot of public engagement, we understand that people's expectation is that we are building a better conservation, transportation, health, community, and economic systems throughout the region. We're currently working in 16 different greenway corridors around the region. We have over 50 different project segments that are completed. Partnerships is a huge aspect of what we do. We've had nearly 250 different partnerships to help us build this great network of 128 miles, of which we have about 3 million people a year visit the Greenway Network. And we're returning about 94 cents on every dollar that we raise through our sales tax into these projects. So I think we believe it's a really great return on this public investment. So the Shoto Greenway is a project that's been around for quite a while, again, almost 20 years. And the grand idea here was to build a greenway that would connect Forest Park with the Arch Grounds. We did complete a segment of this with the new Metrolink station at Cortex a couple of years ago. But during that time, we launched a new planning effort for the Greenway, resulted in an international design competition. And we really, during that process, redefined this as not just a connection between Forest Park and the Arch Grounds, but also north to Fairground and south to Tower Grove Parks. We also rebranded it as the Brickline Greenway as opposed to Shoto. We feel it's a much more inclusive name that speaks to a lot of different St. Louis neighborhoods, and it's something that binds all of us together. It also has a very strong mental imagery, as opposed to one of our founders, a name that is very backward looking in Shoto. And so we've also tried to look at the project and the Greenway through a very different set of lenses. One of them is physically, looking at the city from perspectives that we traditionally don't look at it from. And that's why I love this view that describes the Brickline as a greenway that will connect our beloved places together with the people who live here to create these meaningful experiences every day. And this is Fairground Park in the center of the image, looking south toward Tower Grove in the back, Forest Park on the right, and the Arch Grounds in downtown on the left. And so we've taken a look at other similar types of projects around the country, learning a lot about things that we can do to make this project successful, things to increase value, increase participation. Certainly the High Line of New York is a great example, but even more applicable would be some of these Midwestern examples, the Atlanta Beltline, the Indianapolis Cultural Trail, of these greenways that are urban, that connect a lot of neighborhoods together, and really bind our communities together and hopefully make our region a stronger place. And we've also explored the benefits that these greenways, urban greenways, the benefits they generate for the regions. And we know that this is an important aspect of green infrastructure that is necessary to attract and retain talent within St. Louis. And we've looked at what the public investment and return on that investment could be. And again, there's a lot of particulars about St. Louis that make this a unique situation, but across the board, every community that we've looked at, we've seen a tremendous return on this public investment over many, many times. And so we're very confident that the local dollars that we're spending here are going to be a very beneficial economic and community investment in the St. Louis region for many, many years to come. And of course, as the closer you get to the Greenway, the more that return is. And so we have several different working groups that are helping us analyze the Greenway and not just look at the beneficial impacts, but also try to minimize some of the unintended consequences that may come about from making this type of investment, and some of the changes that will probably come to some of these neighborhoods. So the Greenway Network itself, in addition to the hundreds of miles that we're implementing around the region, we're looking at Brickline Greenway as about a 20+ mile network of greenways within the city of St. Louis. And so we actually envision this as a system within a system. And so as such, it has its own branding that is complementary to the overall Great Rivers Greenway brand. But we're really looking at this as not just a traditional point-to-point greenway, but this is a system of parallel corridors and loops, and has multiple connections, very different from everything else that we've done in the past 20 years across St. Louis. And that speaks to a complexity that we have in that we are developing plans and engagement in multiple corridors, multiple segments all at the same time. It's a heavy lift to do such a large project where we are envisioning different parts of the Greenway in different stages of design and planning and engagement. And so this diagram illustrates what our current activities are. So outlined in the red dashed areas, these are projects that we currently are working on planning and design and engagement. The ones that are outlined in orange are partner projects. So 14th Street near downtown is a CMAQ project that the city was successful in obtaining some funds for, as well as the Tower Grove connector going from Tower Grove Park into the Cortex area. So we're helping to manage and implement those projects as complementary to the overall Brickline Greenway effort. Within the Central Corridor right now, we have several projects that are actively being designed. These are projects that for a variety of reasons have been either underway because they've been looked at for a number of years, and also they have different partners that are helping move these projects forward at a more accelerated rate. On the left-hand side, certainly with the activity that's in Cortex, the completed segment of Brickline Greenway that we completed a few years ago, and also with some of the other developments like the Foundry, the Armory, and other things that are happening in the medical center. We're working with Metro to build the Greenway within their corridor to connect the Cortex station with the Grand Station, with additional connections with some of the other developments that are happening around it. A little bit further to the east, working with Harris Stowe and St. Louis University, the developers of the Major League Soccer Stadium downtown, building the Greenway between Compton and 20th Streets. And so again, by having these very strong partnerships in place and moving their own developments forward, we really want to capitalize on the timing issues. It's important to note on this diagram, the areas that are outlined in black where it says Mill Creek Valley boundary. This is the historic African-American neighborhood of Mill Creek that was largely dismantled and abandoned in the 1950s with a lot of displacement and some scars on the community, both physical and within the African-American community here. So we're working with a local artist on this area, Damon Davis. This is a map that superimposes the area of Brickline Greenway over the historic map of the Mill Creek Valley neighborhood, and you can see the density of residential that was here at one time. Again, nearly completely wiped out in the 50s and 60s. But what a tremendous opportunity that we feel we have to commemorate and express the Greenway in different ways and tell the stories of the people that once lived there. So this is a current plan of the Greenway. Again, the MLS Stadium on the right-hand side. This is Market Street. The intersection of Jefferson is a really important location for us. And then as we move further to the west, we go past the Harris Stowe campus and into the intersection of Market and Compton at the Vashon Community Center, which is again now part of Harris Stowe's campus. A few images sort of before and after to show what the look and feel of the Greenway may be. This is Market Street. This could be a Sunday morning. This could be Friday midday during rush hour. Market does not get a lot of traffic. This is one of those classic corridors in St. Louis that we believe can be re-envisioned for something else. The baseball field here is part of Harris Stowe's campus, but it's also historically it was the site of the St. Louis Stars Negro League field. And so we're looking at ways to introduce the Greenway back into this corridor and do some recognition of the African-American community that was displaced here. So you can see the tremendous impact that the Greenway would have on Market, narrow the vehicular lanes, and give back some of that corridor for the Greenway. Some eye-level views, again, wide open street here, and sort of back door of Harris Stowe. Is there a way that we can reimagine this public space, turn that into more of a front door? This image is showing the Greenway, the dual use path on the right-hand side, again, in those lanes of the Market Street right-of-way, and then more pocket park, side resting areas on the left-hand side, closer to the campus. Also working with Damon Davis on these beautiful memorials. These are very symbolic hourglasses that show, they represent, that time has stood still in ways that we can tell the stories of the people, the residents who were displaced from the Mill Creek Valley. Again, this is right in front of Givens Hall in Harris Stowe's their quad. And a very similar type of way of memorializing the neighborhood on the other end of the Greenway. This would be at the southwest corner of the Major League Soccer Stadium site. And I think it's really important to know that this is the western extent of Gateway Mall right now, and a whole new way of envisioning what Gateway Mall could be. Historically, it's been a series of these monuments that talk about St. Louis history and pushing west, and the Soldiers Memorial and the civic buildings. This is a way to extend the idea of Gateway Mall with a whole different way of telling the story of St. Louis and the people who live here and lived here in the past. And then some other views. This is at Sarah Street at the Metrolink station, where we recently completed the portion of Brickline Greenway with the grain elevator. Way to envision that, even possibly using the grain elevator as a backdrop for public art, but the Greenway then looking back east toward downtown. This is the area underneath I-64 behind IKEA with Vandeventer in the front, and you see the old railroad bridge. Is there a way to re-envision that as a new bridge and a way to access the Foundry development with a very elegant yet kind of industrial looking structure, kind of like our version of the High Line. This is in the middle of the Foundry development, where it would tie in with the existing project that the Lawrence Group has developed. And it's worth noting right here at on the right-hand side is where Great Rivers Greenway's office just relocated to. So we're really excited about using this as a showcase of the Greenway, as we move forward and progress with it. Moving a little bit further to the east, this is the Ameren Substation with the Grand Avenue Viaduct in the background. And again, trying to take a portion of this leftover underutilized property, and really enhance it with the Greenway, with public art and environmental graphics, and make it a much more inviting space. And then at the Grand Metrolink station, working with Metro to make this a much more inviting and pleasant place, because we really envision the Greenway as not just a recreational corridor, but very much as a commuting corridor. And we really want to emphasize that this is a way to access transit and be an alternative way for people to get around the region. And then finally, I want to finish up talking about, we've had a lot of discussions, different forms of engagement. We really believe that this is a design that is being led by the community. We have a number of different stakeholder groups, some of them that are looking at the Greenway and helping us advise us in geographically specific locations, but also working groups that are helping with topical discussions on equity, economic development, and universal design. And finally, we are continuing to engage with the community on uncovering ideas and sentiments that are very, very important. That we want to build a community ownership, we want to design for safety and address people's concerns for the Greenway. We are actively working on a plan for maintaining and operating the Greenway in the future, make sure that it's something that is high quality for many, many years to come. And is a project that is very unique to the neighborhoods and the community of St. Louis. And so with that, we know this is a bold vision. We know that it's going to take all of us. And so sessions like this, where we can help get the word out and solicit your advice, your input, and your participation, I think are just critically important for us moving forward. So I'm going to take a breath and open it up for comments and questions.
Great. Thank you, Mark. All right. Does anyone want to get us started with a question?
Hey, this is Paul Merrill. I've got a question. Great presentation. That was so exciting. I love the vision. And as a biker along Market Avenue there, I've always thought there's a lot more opportunities along there. So I'm really excited for what you've demonstrated there. Can you talk maybe just quickly? This used to be called the Shodo route, correct? And what was the reason behind the name change? If you could let us in on that.
Absolutely, yeah. And so the name Shodo Greenway came about late 1990s, early 2000s. There was an effort that was led by McCormick Barron. HOK was designing it. There were actually two efforts that were going on at the same time. One of them was to re-envision what those parking lots are that are south of Busch Stadium, in between Busch and Nestle Purina, where the rail yards are. That was the site of Shoto's Pond. And so, there was an idea to, could we redo Shoto's Pond and put an amenity back in there where currently, it's underutilized, and, large surface parking areas and some rail yards that, maybe could be repurposed. at the same time that we were starting to do some very early planning for the Greenway Network. And so it sort of got married up that, we could do a version of Shoto's Pond, Shoto's Lake, and then extend it out as a big stormwater project, urban watershed that would connect Forest Park with the Arch Grounds. So it was very much an east-west idea, and gained a lot of momentum and traction within the community. But around 2006 or so, right on the verge of the Great Recession, things started to unravel. And so the idea of Shoto got put on hold for a while until about 2016-17, when we were developing the new Metrolink station. And some partners came back out and just, sort of breathed new life into the idea. We, through the design competition, that's when we really branched out and said, this can't just be an east-west idea through the central corridor. It really needs to reach north and south into the neighborhoods and make this much more of a citywide project that benefits more residents. And through engagement, actually, we started hearing a lot of negative comments about Shoto. For a lot of people, it's difficult to pronounce. There's confusion about the name and Shoto Avenue, which we really weren't using Shoto Avenue. There was concern about the person, the historical person of Shoto. It wasn't very nice to African Americans or Native Americans. Is this, and so we opened up to the community to say, should it be Shoto? Should it be something else? And so we solicited literally hundreds and hundreds of responses for ideas. And there were several that rose to the top. And ultimately, our board of directors debated it. And this was one of the more popular ones that came about. And so it was really the community that renamed it for us. And so Brickline, we think, does a lot of things to help us look forward. Rebrand is, a way to re-envision and to ensure that people understand that this is as important to go north and south as it is to go east and west.
Yes, thank you. I remember filling out one of those questionnaires.
Great.
We have a question from Clark Davis. And so he was wondering who will actually own those public improvements, and then who will be responsible for that maintenance and the operation throughout the Greenway.
Great question, Clark. And it's one that we're struggling with right now. But we're looking at models around the country where there are similar types of projects. The Atlanta Beltline is one that we all look to. They've got what amounts to a massive TIF, though it has a different name in the state of Georgia. We don't think that that's necessarily an option for us based on a lot of the other taxing districts that are around the city of St. Louis. We feel that a lot of these neighborhoods are already overtaxed. And so we're looking at different models, and we have a working group that is basically set up for governance that's trying to advise us on the way that we're going to do this long term. We don't have the answer yet, but we don't believe that that the city of St. Louis is has the resources to take this on and ensure that the investment that we're going to make is something that they'll be able to maintain to the level of quality that we all think is necessary. So it's a work in progress, and we were actively working with the city and other agencies on other options. We also have Great Rivers Greenway has a foundation that was set up a few years ago that is also helping in projects like this to provide additional funds where the tax dollars that we raise through our sales taxes can't provide to ensure that we're building things of higher quality. That's not to say they've committed to the O&M of this project, but we have I think a number of different tools that we're exploring. But it's a very important a question, and something that we are exploring right now.
Right, great. And all in all, hopefully lots of job opportunities out there. And then Michael Willis was wondering, is there an idea for developing one block on either side of Grand from the Fairground Park?
Yes, and so the one image that I showed about the economic impact is a great question, Michael. So we are trying to be very open with our working groups about the things that Great Rivers Greenway can control, what we can influence, and other things that we support, but we don't really have any control over. We're not an economic development agency, and so we don't control that. But we believe that we can influence it, and we think that we can be a partner and a convener. So far in St. Louis, we haven't seen the level of transit-oriented development or greenway-oriented development that occurs in other regions. And my own personal belief is that's because we're a slow-growth region, and we don't have the economic pressures or opportunities that some other regions have. But we do think that we are going to raise value, and there's already been a lot of positive news recently about some of the neighborhoods that Brickline and also Hodemont Greenway will be going through, where there's a lot of private development that is looking for opportunities, and this could be a catalyst for that. And so we want to be a partner with developers, with existing homeowners, ensure that people are capturing the value and building wealth without pushing people out. And so our equity and economic development working group right now, one of their tasks is to look at ways that other regions, other cities have mitigated impacts of gentrification to ensure that the people who live and own properties in these neighborhoods are going to enjoy the benefits without suffering unintended consequences.
So I had a question about the area by Hairstow that you kind of reviewed. Is that I guess the land that's right there, is that going to be a public-private partnership between them where they would relinquish some of the property for the actual greenway itself, or is that really market that, or both?
It's both. Right now, we're showing the greenway entirely within the city's right-of-way, but then some of those other areas that are adjacent are things that we've had through conversations with them and with our Damon Davis, talking with them about ways that the landscape, if you will, the open space for the campus can sort of grow very seamlessly from a user perspective on the campus to the greenway itself. They're very interested in commemorating the Stars Negro League team and the site of that ball field. They're already making some investments there, but there's an idea to do, say, a sculpture of a little boy looking up through a telescope at the Stars. Again, sort of a timeless reference to that team. Doing some memorials in the pavement for the years that the Stars won the pennant. And then also, within their campus, of course, that would be on, their property right there where he has proposed some of those hourglass memorials. And so it's very much a partnership and in a way that, they see their role in the neighborhood as one of those anchors, what used to be the Mill Creek neighborhood. And so, I mentioned our partnerships, we can't do anything on our own, but certainly the Greenway corridor itself would be within the right-of-way. But those parts of the landscape, both at Harris-Stowe, but also at the MLS Stadium, partnering with that ownership group, they see that this is a really great opportunity for them to extend that idea of Gateway Mall further west and tell a different type of a story in St. Louis.
Mark, would you mind stop sharing your screen so we can get a good view of everybody on the call?
Yeah, sorry about that.
And then with all these partners and partnerships, do you have a good idea on a time frame from when a majority of this could be achieved?
Yeah, we're working on that right now, and of course, 20 miles that's a lot of greenway to do, especially in an urban environment where the costs tend to be much higher because of existing infrastructure. The way we like to describe it is that we are pacing the project, not phasing it. And the reason why pacing, we think that that's a better description is because we're working in multiple corridors all at once. Again, the area like around MLS where we've already got a project under construction, we need to keep pace with that project and ensure that, you know, we're not building the Greenway 3 years after the stadium opens. If there's a time when we can partner with them and, you know, have an, you know, efficiency of timing and building, we can capitalize on that. And there's a couple other locations where we think that the implementation could be accelerated. I mentioned, you know, some of those images between the Cortex Metrolink station and the Grand Metrolink station. We're seeking a federal grant that could help us accelerate the project there. There's already been advanced design work that's, you know, goes back several years there, and engagement. We've got a license agreement with Bi-State to allow us to work within their right of way. And so those are projects that could be accelerated. Other areas like the connection from Fairground Park back south to SLU's campus, we have started engagement activities, but we're still exploring the actual corridor and the look and feel. So David Mason locally is partnered with Walter Hood Design on that project. That's some design and engagement work that is just now getting started. And so while that work is going on simultaneously with the other projects, it's got some catching up to do. And again, we're really getting to know the community right now and trying to identify what their concerns are, uncover opportunities for which, not just which corridor is viable, but also what connections, you know, what community assets we can link to. And as Michael was just talking about, what are the opportunities for, you know, trying to work with local property owners and developers, and, you know, city incentives perhaps to ensure that we're building the Greenway in locations that will have the best, you know, economic benefit for the city and for those neighborhoods.
Right. Yeah, well, it is 10:30. We're at that 10:30 mark. Clark, I wonder if you can see the chat, Mark, but just posted a quick question of just an idea of creating a trust for these greenways.
Yeah, I think that is actually a really compelling idea. And Brickline Greenway is not the only one where we're facing this challenge. Hodemont Greenway, which is, you know, the old Hodemont streetcar line between you know, Grand Center all the way out to the city limits at Gwen Giles Park. We're building St. Vincent Greenway through Wellston, Pagedale right now, Mailing Greenway through Ferguson and other communities. These are communities that don't have a lot of resources to commit to additional parks and rec. And so I think organizationally, that's one of the tasks that our regional plan update process that we're undertaking right now is looking at how to handle operations, maintenance, security issues in communities that lack the resources to do it themselves. And so it's an issue that we're addressing regionally, but yeah, definitely, Clark, we're open to as many ideas and models as possible. I think it's a great idea to do some kind of a trust or an endowment or something like that could help out.
Wonderful. Thank you. Any last comments from anyone? Questions? All right. Well, we did record this, so we can send the recording out to you and with some follow-up resources. So everyone have a happy Friday. Enjoy the weekend and hopefully get out there and catch some sunshine. And Emily did post in the chat, we have an upcoming evening program, educational program next Tuesday regarding re-entering and disinfecting buildings with COVID. So, yep. Cheers. Thank you, guys.
Great job.
And thank you, Mark.
Thanks.
We really
Great job,
appreciate
Mark.
it.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.